Yeah, welcome back. I see some faces I've seen in the sessions before, so happy to have you here and to announce our next speaker. For me, it feels a little bit like being on diet, so I'm happy to have some food today because we always had lunch sessions as well. So I was here the whole day, but now I feel a little bit better after having a sandwich. And I hope you all are looking forward to our next speaker as much as I do, because he's talking a little bit about decisions that went wrong. So especially when it comes to a business model, that's might be a bigger mistake then. So welcome on stage Kjell from Ludo Games, and he's talking about and sharing some insights about their Rick O Shea Daredevil app. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to my presentation. Well, as you heard, my name is Kjell from the Game Studio. 3 years ago, I started my studio with the idea to focus on core gameplay with my games. At the time, I didn't really care much about the graphics or even what other people thought about it. I just wanted to make the games as fun as I could make them. So I focused on that primarily. That lasted about a year. Then I realized I actually needed to make some money in order to survive, and I started to think a little bit more commercial. And I worked up together with Big Fish Games to create the game Glimmer, which is a match 3 game with a twist, because I always wanted to add something that is sort of innovative. In this case, you had to move entire rows instead of just swap tiles to match them. This was my first kind of success title, which earned me some money, which was interesting. But I always had a dream to create one of my games on a touch device, because I thought they were really fit for touch devices. So that's when I met Mark Overmars at the Festival of Games in 2011. And basically he came to me saying, would you like one of your games to be running on a touch device? And I was really interested because, well, I was working with Game Maker for 9 years, and Mark Overmars was the creator of Game Maker, so it was a great opportunity to work with him. He also introduced me to Yo-Yo Games, who was developing Game Maker Studio into the engine that could also port to Android and iOS. So that was for me the opportunity to use one of my games and port them to a touch device. So I had this whole range of games which had easy to use controls, but we finally settled on the game called Curveball, where you had to time your shots between different cannons. In this case, there were still crossbows, so that was the control of the game, and the entire screen was the button, so it was a one-button game. The goals for me was to, well, prove the concept of that I had, that it was a really easy to learn game, and that it was very enjoyable. So, and of course, I was aiming for eternal glory and fame and wealth. And the goal for Yo-Yo Games was to create another showcase for their engine. So we started off, and we both decided that in order to be a commercial hit, we had to change the entire game, change the graphics. We went over the graphics a few more times until Yo-Yo Games said, okay, just hand the graphical department over to us. We'll take it over from here. And we made it more fit for mobile. We made it so that there were smaller levels where you had to collect stars, and edit it just to make it a little bit more fit for mobile. And they offered me a pretty good deal, which was 50% of the profits, so it was interesting. So I was really enthusiastic, and I thought, okay, let's do this, and I'm gonna make like 120 levels. And Yo-Yo Games, they saw that, and they were like, whoa, these are a lot of levels. We could use that as our business model, and have Rick O Shea be our guinea pig project, where we're just gonna give away 24 levels for free, and then the players could buy the 96 other levels as in-app purchases. So this would be the first game for Game Maker Studio which would be able to handle in-app purchases. And it seemed like a good idea at the time. So it developed after a few months of my life, basically creating the game, polishing it into what I think until now is the best game I've ever created. At the time it got finished, we turned it into, we created the trailer, which also got me really enthusiastic on how it all looked. So I'm going to show that. So yeah, it got published, and right after it got published, it got a lot of attention from the press. It immediately became Gaming App of the Day on Kotaku, and Pocket Gamer rewarded it with the Silver Award, which to me was like a great acknowledgement. Okay, this game is alright, you did good, and it was an awesome feeling. So to me, already a big success actually. Somewhere later the next year in 2012 in March somewhere it got featured on Google Play, right in the charts where it was sitting next to Angry Birds and The Sims, which to me was even more awesome. I got this photograph because I have an iPhone. I got this photograph from a friend of mine who showed, look, your game is on the main store, which was really interesting. And so I got like 2 out of 3. And eventually it turned out to be like 1 million downloads. As it got featured on Google Play, that went up really quickly. And to me it was an astonishing amount of people playing my game. So that was nice. Only the wealth was a little bit disappointing. I was like, all right, it's doing so good. There must be some reward. People must be buying these extra levels. And it turned out that until now I've only made like $1,500 on it. So that was kind of really disappointing. So I started thinking, okay, was it the failure? Where did I go wrong? I first looked at my own design. Okay, maybe the difficulty of the levels wasn't all right. Maybe I did some things wrong. And looking back at it, I might have done some things that I would have improved. We should have done more playtesting. We did a lot of playtesting, but we always as a result that the levels weren't hard enough. But I think right now the levels might be too difficult because we didn't playtest with a wide enough variety of people. So that's my advice for you. If you start playtesting, just get everybody to play your game, not just the hardcore gamers or that. Because we were playtesting in the University of Dundee, and there were mostly only game developers, students there who were playing the game. So it was just industry people. And then I also started looking at the business model, which until now I think is the biggest mistake we made. Because there are simply too many risks of you selling the levels to the players. Players might feel like they have completed everything they can complete if they completed the first 3 levels. They're like, all right, I'm done with this now, I gotta pay, I'll move on to the next game. Or they have the feeling that it's still incomplete and they have to pay, and it really makes them feel uncomfortable. And also making it free, so the first 24 levels for free, means that there's no attachment or commitment from the players to keep playing your game. We literally had one player comment who said, well, I don't really like this game, but I might try it. And he gave it 1 star just before he even booted up the game. And I was really like confused, like why would you even rate it if you don't know? But that is what you get when you get your game for free, is that you get everybody to download it, not just the people that are potentially interested, but also the people who think it's shit anyway and download it. So that is one of the biggest risks also. So what I think is what could work with in-app purchases, because that is where I think we went wrong, is that instead of making the payment, instead of paying for the progress itself, people should pay for features and not for progress. So the best games who are using in-app purchases, I think, have the illusion of progress. So if the players are playing for a while and they keep getting further and further in the game, the game starts to drag out a little bit longer, and they kind of make the decision themselves to, okay, this is taking too long, I'm just going to buy these coins and move on to the next features and be faster and better in the game. So I think it works best if you let the players decide themselves when they want to speed up their progress, and to enhance their experience with more powerful, more beautiful looking gameplay features. So for example, I think a game that does this really well is Jetpack Joyride, where you can just play the game forever. But if you want really cool stuff, you can just play it a lot or buy some of the credits and just get some nice features or boosts. And this is like the classic, I think the classic example of something that does really well. We also tried this with Rick O Shea, where we had the characters. We created a few character skins, but we kind of missed out on this because we just made this a graphical representation of the character, where I think this doesn't really add anything, it just changes the picture, and people looked right through that. So right now I'm just aiming in another direction, even though that was like a big disappointment to me, actually, also in due to payments, and I'm just aiming into another direction with some of my other games which I created before with Game Maker. This is a game called Quiver. I published this 2 months ago on my own, making me an official indie developer, which is really, come to think about it, I've only worked with publishers so far. So this was an interesting experience. It also got featured on Kotaku, so I got the feeling that I'm really onto something. I'm just not there yet. But it was an interesting experience and a nice journey to create Rick O Shea. And yeah, that was it so far. So if you have any questions, I'd like to answer that.
Any questions in the audience? Yep.
If I understood you right, you don't have any ads in your games. Is it by design, or you're kind of disappointed by the fact that you haven't put any advertisement in your game?
Well, we were thinking about putting advertisement in the game, but due to the huge amount of levels, we kind of went for the in-app purchases. Also, I think the main reason for Yo-Yo Games to do this is to test to make sure that Game Maker Studio would feature in-app purchases, and that was their main reason to try in-app purchases. So we didn't really go for we had to decide one way or the other, I think. So also having ads in there, I don't know if that would have worked. It might be even more frustrating to the player. So yeah. Any other questions?
No other questions? Then I'd like to ask something. Do you think that another business model would have brought you more wealth?
Well, maybe if I come to think about the fact is that from scratch we built the entire game based on the mechanics they are right now. So every level is dependent on some mechanics. So the speed that the character falls, that is dependent whether or not you can complete the level. So if we would have gone for another business model, we basically had to redo the whole game, because if we wanted to add some features where you can fly further or have some boosts, that would make some levels unplayable or even more challenging, where we wouldn't want to do that. So yeah.
What about having a paper download?
That would have been better, I think. We should have done that.
Okay.
I think eventually, just because we had the game was basically finished at all. So I think premium would have been the best choice for this game.
Okay.
So yes.
And any questions? So raise your hand so I don't ask anything. Okay. And simply, why didn't you change it?
Well,
it surprised me when you said you stopped, because it's a great game.
Yes.
Yeah, I like it. I played it back in the days, and when it came out, and because I read the feature on Kotaku as well, and so it's a great game, and so it's really surprised me that you stopped and maybe not tried out different.
Yeah, it's also because I'm working with Yo-Yo Games. It's also a little bit their call. So I heard the last thing they were trying is getting it implementing some videos where you can unlock the extra level packs by watching a video of 30 seconds, and then we would be paid for that. So that is some sort of in-game advertisement system. So we're still experimenting with it, and for the iOS version, we actually made it a paid version, but there didn't get as much attention as it did on the Android platform. So that was a little bit disappointing. So, yeah, but we learned a lot from it, and I think for the next games I'm making, I can take that with me in my decisions. So that is good.
So you're thinking already about a sequel then?
Well, maybe not a sequel, but because I've got many other ideas for other games, so I would rather let this be what it is and move on to the next.
Okay.
So yeah. All right.
The other one?
And what do you think about your choice to go self-publishing? Would you recommend this kind of approach to other indie developers, or you would say that publisher would have brought more value to this game?
Well, I think Yo-Yo Games, when they published Rick O Shea, they did a really good job, even because they got it featured on Google Play, and I would have had no idea on how to do that. So that is still their added value, really. At the same time, the feeling I got when I got featured on Kotaku, when I did the press reports myself, was even bigger, because it was entirely my game. So that was, even though it was a game that I just made a few years ago, and we polished it a little bit and just tried it to experiment with, okay, how can we publish a game as best we can? That was a very nice experience also. So I'm from now on, I'm going on my own, I think. So, and in the meantime, I'm also working as a developer for another company, which is called Tingly Games in the Netherlands. So I'm doing multiple things right now. So, yes. All right.
No more questions here? Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.